Hello everyone, welcome back. In previous lecture, we have established the connection between employee and passport, right? So now we are going to insert the data, employee information and passport information. So by creating a Spring RESTful API, we are going to persist employee and passport information, right? So to create a REST API, let me show you. So if you want to create RESTful API in our Spring Boot architecture, we have to create controller and service and DAO layer. So DAO layer will connect to the database, right? So let me create a controller first. Either it is Spring Boot or traditional Spring application, we used to follow or we need to follow same architecture, right? So to perform one-to-one relationship, I am going to create Spring Boot REST APIs, right? To perform employee, to insert employee details. Create employee API, I am going to create it. So to create the employee API, first we need to create controller. So let me create the controller. Go to Eclipse and right click on the root package of application, and then click on package controller. Now right click on that package and create employee REST controller, and click on finish button. So I have just created the class, so let me stop the server, otherwise it will keep disturb us, right? So let me stop the server now. So I have just created the controller class, but this is a simple controller. How we can define our class as a controller, REST controller, with the help of at the rate REST controller annotation. The moment you specify at the rate REST controller annotation, our class will become as a REST controller. So I have created the controller. Next, what we need to create? Let me create service class. Okay, service layer. How we can create? So right click on the project and click on new and create interface employee service. So in this interface we are going to create which API? Create employee API, right? So let me write a abstract method, create employee method, right? So create employee. So we need to pass input, right? So employee class we need to pass as argument. So the moment you create the employee, we should return respective employee details, right? So the return type should be employee. That's it. So interface will have abstract methods. Why I'm creating we can write the test case and we can perform insert operation also, but I want to show you how to create end-to-end application, Spring Boot application along with one-to-one operation. Okay, that's the reason I am creating Spring Boot project from scratch. So interface I have defined. So now what we need to write? So in real time we have to follow this kind of coding standards. Okay, so now right click and new, we need to create implementation class, right? So create the class employee service IMPL, nothing but employee service implementation class. So this class should extend uh, this implements employee service, right? Employee service, click on employee service and click on OK button and then click on finish. So employee service IMPL is implements employee service interface, and I have written one employee create employee method, so that is overridden here. So this is just service class, but it will not become a real-time service class, because so we have to declare it. How Spring Boot knows who is going to create this object? Employee service object is going to create by Spring Boot itself. So how Spring Boot knows to create employee service object? By specifying at the rate service annotation. Okay, that's it. Organize the imports. Now my service is ready now. So next, what I need to create? We have to create repository, right? So next, controller we have created, service we have created, then next repository layer, we have to create repository layer. So let me right click on the root package and new, and create interface called employee jpa repository. So this will extend jpa repository. Spring is having JPA repository. We are going to perform code operations with the employee and passport. So we are going to perform code operations with the help of JPA repository. Then click on finish button. So our employee repository is ready. So JPA repository is having generic types. So T in the sense here we need to pass employee entity. So id, so this should be your primary key of employee. So in employee, what is the primary key data type? It should be long. So same thing we have to, if you took integer, you have to give integer. If you took long, then you have to took long here. So that's it, our repository is ready now. So here how we can define our repository class? With the help of at the rate repository annotation to define our repository layer. So this means that this, what is the meaning of that? This class become, this interface become as a repository layers. So now my employee repository is ready now. So far we have created controller, service and repository layer. So to insert the database operation, so we have to create so from controller to service we have to call some, from service to we have to call repository layer, right? So let me write business logic. Where we have to write the business logic, you can see as part of the Spring Boot architecture, we are going to write business logic in service layer, and we are going to have persistence logic in repository layer. So already we have created the repository, and with the help of JPA repository, it has all the methods, like how we are going to insert, update and delete operations we are going to perform with JPA repository. So that database layer related methods already available inside the JPA repository. So based on our requirement, we can use respective methods. Okay, so now we just need to write the business logic in service layer. That's it. Go to your employee service IMPL and implement the business logic here. So from the, during the architecture, from the service layer we have to call repository layer, repository or DAO layer. So to call repository layer in service class, we have to create repository instance here inside, repository instance in service layer. So now let me create employee JPA repository, employee JPA control space. That's it, it will create automatically. So now here we will create employee JPA repository. Spring Boot will create the object of employee JPA repository with the help of AutoWire. So this is a field level injection, field level dependency injection. So now we have to call this repository layer in service method of create employee. repository employee repository dot, it has a method called save method will perform insert or update operation. So with the help of JPA repository is having save method. By using save method we can perform insert or update operation. So I'm going to use save method, and what we need to pass, you can see control space save method is having entity. You can see what we need to pass, we have to pass entity object. By looking into save method itself you will get to know, to store the employee details we need to pass entity to save method of employee JPA repository. So this save method is coming from where? JPA repository, which we have, you can see here employee repository we have created interface, this we have extended JPA repository. So here we have that save method, right? So let me add employee, let me pass employee object, that's it. So we can save employee details now. So from the service layer is ready now. So during the architecture from the service layer, so from where we need to call the service layer, we have to call the service layer from controller. So let me go to controller, employee rest controller. So here we have to call, I am going to create the API now, public. So we are going to create employee API, right? So we should return uh, response response entity of employee object. Okay, so now, so this response entity is available in Spring framework. So, okay, so what is the purpose? So we can return the whether employee is saved or not, status of the, whether if it is created we can set the 201, right? As part of the response we can show 201 response, that means employee is created successfully. For that purpose we are using response entity. So it is available in Spring Boot framework. So employee now create employee API we need to write, that's it. For the time being I will return null. So let me organize the imports, control shift O. So what we need to pass, employee details. This employee details will come from REST client. So how we can get the employee details from the REST client? With the help of @request body, that's it. So we need to pass employee object, that's it. So now our method is ready. So now we can call service layer from controller. So to call the service layer we need to create service class object, private employee service, that's it. We will create employee service instance. With the help of dependency injection, Spring Boot will create for us field level dependency injection I am using. So now we can call employee service dot create employee method, which you have created, right? So create employee, and then just pass the employee object. So this should return response entity of employee. So let me write new response. So this method should return response entity of employee, response entity of employee. So we can use employee entity of this one, right? So there is a method constructor called, we can pass employee entity and HTTP request method, response method. So this is no need. So this create employee method will return employee class object, right? Or directly you can call this method inside that as well. Just to call inside that, or let me write Some people may confuse. Let me write. You can directly call this method inside this, and we can pass HTTP status code. HTTP status. HTTP status. Let me maximize. You can see there is a HTTP status which is available in springboot.http. So using this here, you can pass created. Yeah, that's it. So now we don't need this. That's it. Now we can create the employee. So what we need to declare? We have to declare this is a post request, right? We have to send the employee details from REST client, right? So let me create the post mapping, and we need to create the employee API. Create employee. Let me give create employee API. That's it. So now we can call this API from REST client to save employee data. So let me go to the browser, and in browser we have a I have already installed Talent API. So if you have already Postman, you can use. If you have Talent API, you can use Talent API from any client. You can use. So create employee API. I'm just pausing as part of Talent API from REST client. So what is the HTTP request method? To create the employee post request. So from here we can pass. Already I have in previous class I already explained the students. So that's the reason this is came by default. So now here, let me, what are the properties we have here? As part of employee entity, we have ID, first name and last name. So let me give, as part of the request we need to pass employee details, first name and last name Sul Sheikh, and we have ID, first name and last name and passport. First name we need to no need to pass because Hibernate will generate a primary key for us, right? So first name, last name and passport details. Let me delete this. And passport, what is the property? This is the one, passport. We need to pass it as a passport. That's it. So passport ID also we no need to pass to insert the passport. So we have ID and number. So ID we no need to pass because Hibernate will generate for the primary key of passport. So we just need to pass passport number. So I already have here number. So it should be alphanumeric, right? So passport number will be alphanumeric. I will just pass the dummy number, some dummy alpha passport number. Okay. So now we can send the request to insert the employee detail. Let's see what will happen now. So how it is going to store the data? In employee we have defined one-to-one relationship. So now I am trying to insert the employee details. Let's see what will happen. Go to the console and clear the console. And now why I'm showing step by step, some people will by heart the code to implement one-to-one relationship. So my intention is you should not by heart the code. You should understand each and every statement to perform one-to-one relationship mapping. So what one-to-one relation will perform? So it will maintain the relationship between employee and passport. So now we are going to store the data. So what will happen, we'll see now with this annotation. Okay. So now open the REST client and send the request. No response. Why? Because I haven't started the server. So let me start the server. You can see our Tomcat server started successfully with the default port number 8080. Now I can send the request from REST client. Create employee API will be post request, right? So let me send the request. As part of the request, I am sending employee details and passport details. Yeah, we got 500 internal error. So what is the meaning of that? Let me check the response here. What is the response it sent? Transient property value, transient property value exception. So object reference an unsaved transient instance. So save instance before flushing. So let me open the Eclipse console as well. You can see here it is clearly saying it is trying to, you can see Hibernate is generated insert query to insert the employee details, right, to insert the employee details. But problem here is, so employee is having relationship, right, with passport. So passport is not going to store here. That is the meaning of that. Object reference unsaved transient instant. Save the transient instance before flushing. Why? Because, so you right click, so one to one, we have a one to one mapping, right? We have one to one mapping with employee with passport. So if you open the database, we have a foreign key relationship. So if you want to insert employee information, before inserting employee we have to insert passport first, right? So without inserting the passport we can't insert in employee details. That is the reason server returned 500 internal error, right? It is clearly saying uh, object reference an unsaved transient instance. Save the transient instance before flushing. That means before inserting the employee details, first we have to insert passport details. So we can resolve this in two ways. Let me clear the console. How we can resolve in two ways? Let me go one by one. So go to your service class. So first we are unable to save the employee details, right? So first we have to insert passport first. So to insert the passport, so we need a passport jpa repository. So to insert the employee we need employee jpa repository. Similarly, to insert the passport, before inserting the employee we need to insert the passport. To insert the passport we need to create passport jpa repository. So let me create that repository. Where is our repository package entity? Sorry. Oh, repository I have created inside the package. Ah, okay, okay. So we should move. We should create a repository package. Actually, I haven't created a repository package. Let me check. Repository I have created a controller package, entity package, but I haven't created a repository package as well as service package. So better we create repository package, guys. Inside that only we have to write actually repository. Inside the repository package, so I am going to move this employee repository also inside this package and click on OK. Refactor. Okay, update all qualified names. Click on OK. So now similarly service class also we have to create inside the service layer, right? So let me create the package for service layer service. So inside that service package we should have these two, implementation and interface, both we should have inside the service class package. Yeah, that's it. I just moved. So now repository layer, where is our repository layer? He's here. So now before we got the exception, right? So in employee service, before inserting the employee, we have to insert passport first. So to insert the passport, we need JPA repository interface, passport JPA repository. It will extend JPA repository. Finish. So how here we need to pass passport entity, and ID we need to pass long, because in passport entity I have taken it as a long. Passport ID I have taken it as a long. So we have to declare this as a at the rate repository. That's it. Our repository, passport repository is ready. Now we can call this passport repository from employee service, because before inserting employee, we have to insert passport first. Private passports JPA repository. So we need to auto write. So Spring Boot Spring container will create passport JPA repository singleton instance. So now passport JPA repository dot save. What we need to pass? Employee passport details. From where passport details? So from the employee object we have passport details, right? Employee dot get passport. That's it. Now let me stop the server and let me start in debug mode, so that you can easily understand how before employee we are going to insert the passport, and then employee details will be inserted successfully. So instead of debug, let me start the server directly in debug mode. I want to run in debug mode. Go to REST clients and we'll check our remember decision switch. Okay, check our server is started successfully or not. This is Eclipse issue, you no need to bother about it. So now click on open the console. So we don't have any exception in console. So now we can send the request successfully. First a request will come to our employee repository, sorry, employee controller, right? So in employee controller, let me put breakpoint here as well. So now I will send the request from REST client. You can see request came to our controller, and you can let me check whether data came into controller or not. You can see data came successfully. So ID is null, because ID is going Hibernate is going to generate primary key, so we no need to pass ID. That is the reason it is null. So I haven't passed the ID from as part of the request. You can see we got the first name, last name, and passport details also. So passport details we are going to store, right? So ID also, passport ID will Hibernate is going to generate. So we got the request. So let me function f8. So it will go to the service layer. You can see, so it came to the service layer. So here first, before inserting employee, we are going to insert the passport first. Let me open the console and clear the console. We'll see what Hibernate will do. Clear the console and put breakpoint here and press function f8. So you can see the moment passport JPA repository dot save method is executed, Hibernate is generated, insert into passport. What is that meaning? So Hibernate is going to insert passport here. So it is generated clearly. Insert into passport values. Okay, so passport. Now you can see here employee object. You can see after insertion the employee object should have passport details, you can see id also generated by hibernate. The moment it is passport details are saved, you can see before inserting the employee details, you can debug here. So passport details are came successfully, you can see here. Hibernate generated primary key for passport id and number we have sent, this we have sent from rest client. Now let me open the console. So as of now we have only insert statement, so let me execute function f8. That's it, function f8. So you can see rest line response, you can see employee details successfully inserted in database. We got the response 201, nothing but. So resource is created in database, employee resource successfully inserted in database. So we can see employee information also there. Along with employee information, we got passport details as well. Right, so we have employee details, first name, last name, and passport details and last name. So if you open the console, you can see the moment this statement is executed, employee repository.save method is executed. So hibernate is generated, insert into employee. So this is how we have resolved the issue, transient instance issue, right? So there is another way also, how we can insert another way. Let me show you. So we don't need to write the logic to insert the passport explicitly. So let hibernate create the passport uh, by hibernate. We no need to write the logic to insert passports. I told you right initially, two ways we can resolve the transient exception, instance exception. So before employee we have to store the passport details. So now I have written the logic to store passport manually, so we no need to do that. Let me let hibernate insert the passport details as well. How we can do that? So before that, let me show you the database where the data is inserted or not. You can see there is a no, if there is a employee details is inserted, employee number 2 Rasul and Sheikh. And let me open the passport table. Passport table also is inserted successfully. Passport info, passport id, this is generated by hibernate, and the passport number which you pass from the rest client, it is inserted. So we have employee information as well as passport information. So we have inserted passport details manually, we no need to do that. Let the hibernate to do that. How we can perform? Let me show you. So go to the passport, go to the entity employee. So along with the one-to-one annotation, we can use there is a attribute called cascade is equal all detached match. I will explain you later, so I will go with all. So the moment you declare cascade is equal to all, what is will happen? So hibernate is going to, before inserting the employee, hibernate will insert the password first, and then it will insert employee details. So let me do that. So what is the meaning of cascade? So whatever operation we are going to perform with employee, if we are going to insert the employee, so at the same time hibernate will insert passport details as well. If you got it right, that is the meaning of cascade is equal to all. So what are all the operation we are going to perform with employee, so same operation is going to perform with passport as well. So let me clear the console and let me create one more employee. Okay, so let me disable the debug, send the request. You can see employee 3 is created successfully. So if you open the console, you can see insert into employee values and insert into passport values and insert into employee value. See how beauty is that. So hibernate is performing when we are inserting the employee details, it is also inserting passport details as well. So we haven't written the logics, I have commented out, right? I have commented out along with the employee. So before inserting the employee, hibernate or JPI is inserted, our passport details as well, but with the help of one-to-one annotation and cascode is equal cascade type all. So this is how you have to learn, guys. Okay, so in this lecture we learn how to insert the data in insert employee and passport table, right? So in next lecture I will explain you what is eager loading and what is lazy loading in one-to-one relationship. Okay, so if you guys are like this video, you can subscribe and you can watch all the videos which I have uploaded into my playlist, and you can learn freely. You no need to pay the money. Okay, so go to browser. The new guys who are all watching newly, you can go to https colon https youtube.com/ rasul sheikh / playlists. So here go to this youtube portal, and if you click on that, so you have a playlist here. The moment you click on playlist, you will have multiple classes. Let me pass. So you can see there is a sequence of lecturers I have given here. You can learn one by one. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Subscribe and learn it. Okay, so if you will subscribe the video, every day I will upload one latest lecture in this playlist. Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you so much.